In a dramatic development that has sent shockwaves through South Africa's political arena, reports suggest that a High Court has issued an order related to the potential arrest of Julius Malema amid the intensifying legal saga surrounding Michael Sandlana. If confirmed and enforced, the implications could reverberate far beyond one individual, touching the judiciary, parliament, and the future trajectory of opposition politics in the country. This is not merely another courtroom headline. It is a moment that could redefine power, accountability, and political confrontation in modern South Africa. According to court filings and legal observers, the High Court's involvement stems from proceedings connected to the ongoing Sandlana case, a matter that has already generated intense scrutiny across political and media platforms. Sources familiar with the situation indicate that the court order may relate to allegations of procedural interference, contempt concerns, or failure to comply with specific judicial directives tied to the broader investigation. Allegations have emerged suggesting that certain statements and actions surrounding the case may have prompted judicial review. At this stage, it is critical to separate verified developments from speculation. What is clear is that the High Court's decision, whether interim, conditional, or final, signals judicial assertiveness in a politically sensitive matter. South Africa's judiciary has long been viewed as one of the strongest pillars of constitutional democracy. When a High Court intervenes in matters involving senior political leaders, the message is unmistakable: the rule of law applies to all. Julius Malema, leader of the Economic Freedom Fighters, EFF, is no stranger to legal and political battles. Known for his confrontational rhetoric and bold parliamentary presence, Malema has often positioned himself as a challenger to establishment power structures. The Sandlana case, meanwhile, has evolved into a lightning rod for broader political tensions. What began as a legal dispute has increasingly taken on political dimensions, with parties and public figures weighing in. Analysts suggest that the intersection of Malema's involvement and the Sandlana proceedings could represent more than coincidence. Some observers argue that the situation reflects deeper fractures within South Africa's political ecosystem, tensions between opposition activism, state institutions, and the judiciary. If the High Court order proceeds toward enforcement, it could raise complex constitutional questions. How does judicial authority balance against political speech? Where is the line drawn between public commentary and legal obstruction? These are not abstract debates. They go to the heart of South Africa's post-apartheid democratic framework. South Africa's constitutional architecture was designed precisely for moments like this. The judiciary, executive, and legislature operate in defined but interdependent spheres. Should a High Court order concerning Malema move forward, several institutional processes would follow. Constitutional experts emphasize that arrest orders, if indeed issued, do not equate to guilt. They are procedural mechanisms within the justice system. However, politically, optics often move faster than legal nuance. The symbolism of a prominent opposition leader facing judicial enforcement amid a politically charged case would undoubtedly intensify national discourse. Supporters of Malema argue that any move toward arrest could be politically motivated, pointing to historical tensions between opposition movements and state institutions. According to some voices within civil society, concerns remain about the perception of selective enforcement. Conversely, others maintain that no individual is above the law. They argue that judicial processes must be respected, regardless of political stature. Social media discussions reflect a broader national divide, one side framing the issue as accountability in action, the other questioning timing and context. In South Africa's politically charged climate, perception can be as powerful as legal reality. The inclusion of Michael Sandlana's case in this unfolding narrative adds another layer of complexity. What initially appeared to be an isolated legal matter has grown into a focal point for broader political scrutiny. Reports suggest that statements, affiliations, or procedural disputes connected to the Sandlana case may have contributed to the High Court's involvement. However, it remains essential to rely on official court documentation rather than conjecture. Legal analysts caution that complex cases involving multiple public figures often evolve rapidly. Motions, counter-motions, and judicial clarifications can significantly reshape the narrative within days. For now, the Sandlana proceedings remain active, and any parallel legal developments must be interpreted within that context. Should enforcement of the High Court order proceed, several outcomes are possible. Legal appeals. Malema's legal team could challenge the order, potentially escalating the matter to higher courts. Political mobilization. The EFF may respond through formal political channels, statements, or parliamentary engagement. Market sensitivity. Political uncertainty often affects investor confidence, particularly when it involves high-profile figures. Judicial precedent. The case could establish important precedent regarding political speech and court authority. None of these outcomes are predetermined. They depend on procedural developments, judicial reasoning, and political restraint. What remains certain is that the coming days will be closely watched by legal scholars, political analysts, and citizens alike. South Africa's democracy has faced many stress tests over the past decades: corruption scandals, institutional reforms, and fierce parliamentary clashes. This moment, if fully realized, could represent another such test. Will institutions operate transparently? Will legal processes remain insulated from political pressure? Will political actors respond with restraint and respect for constitutional order? These questions transcend individual personalities. They speak to the durability of democratic governance in a nation still navigating the balance between activism, accountability, and authority. As the situation unfolds, clarity will depend on official court communications and verified reporting. Until then, measured analysis remains essential. If the High Court order regarding Julius Malema is executed, it will not merely mark a legal milestone, it will symbolize a defining chapter in the ongoing evolution of South African political accountability. In a constitutional democracy, institutions matter more than individuals. The coming days will reveal whether South Africa's institutions can withstand the pressure, and whether this chapter becomes a turning point or another episode in an already turbulent political era.